Hi everyone, welcome to Trickle Up podcast, and my name is Mara Khalid and I work as an English language specialist at Trickle Up.
I'm Hamza Irfan. I'm a content marketer and I work as a copywriter as well in Trickle Up.
Yeah. So today's podcast is going to be about the lost art of mentoring.
Yeah. So why would you say that it's a lost art of mentoring?
Well, I guess because I don't think I have a mentor, because I really don't understand what does it mean to have a mentor.
I think if you're looking at the concept of mentorship, it's someone who's ideally more senior or more experienced in any aspect from you, and that person has a one-to-one relationship with you where he focuses or her focuses on your growth, either professionally, career-wise, or even personally. So if you're looking in that sense, it doesn't necessarily have to be someone you professionally call a mentor. You can have mentors anywhere within your organization where you work. They could be your friends, and it could be a two-way relationship. You can both be a mentor to each other in different aspects, if you look at it that way.
That's interesting. Kind of reminds me of that. There is this old Buddhist proverb, which means that if you light a lamp for someone, then it also brightens the path for you. So it's kind of interesting that you can be a mentor to someone and they can be a mentor to you as well. So like a collaboration. So
Exactly.
I actually did some research and I also found out that interestingly, the most successful of people that we've heard of, people like Steve Jobs or Albert Einstein or Henry Ford, they've all had some form of mentors.
Mentorships, yeah.
So if we talk about, for instance, Thomas Edison had a mentor. His name was Franklin Leonard. And he actually gave him space in his basement so he can work on his invention. So imagine if he didn't give him that space and resources to work on creating the bulb. Maybe we'd be,
Without a bulb.
Yeah, we'd be without a bulb.
Exactly.
And we'd be shooting the podcast without, like, in the dark. We wouldn't have anything.
Exactly. If even the study shows that around 80% of leaders, they said that they had mentors that have helped them achieve their goals. And the relationship, the way I see in mentorship is that, as Simon Sinek says, he doesn't say that he already had pre-established that you are my mentor. He said that we've had this relationship where you have trust on another person, where you can communicate openly, and after a few years maybe, they both acknowledge that you're my mentor and you're my mentor. So this is a very open relationship for people.
Yeah, and I think that mentoring really does help you career-wise, professionally as well, because there's this model which is a 70 to 20 to 10 model, and that basically says that 70% of experiences that you get, knowledge you get, is through your job.
Exactly.
20% you get from socially, like mentoring from your peers, from your friends, from people around you, and only 10% comes from formal training.
Yep.
So mentorship and just having interactions with people, learning from their experiences really does help you, because this is the kind of knowledge you don't get in books.
And especially if you can just acknowledge or you just be aware that this person in my life is my mentor, it can actually change the course of your career. It can give you so much insight on how you see yourself or how you personally develop yourself. So if you're talking about this, what do you think? Do you have a mentor?
I really don't think so. But I think that at Trickle Up, I've found a lot of people who have those capabilities, and I've learned a lot from them as well. So I think maybe I'm on the way of finding one over here.
Yeah, it's just the way you see it. So if we're talking about stories of mentorship, I think when I came here for the first time at Trickle Up, I just looked at my manager as a boss, like a conventional boss. But we were just talking about it one day. I got a feedback from my client, and I was kind of beating myself up. I was like, oh my God, I did something wrong. And he was sitting with me and he said, why are you beating yourself up? Like, what do you mean? Like, don't beat yourself up. The world is already around here beating yourself up. So you have to stand up for your own self. I think that was the first time when I realized that this person who I perceived as a boss has given me some insight that helped me grow professionally and personally. And that is when I thought that this guy is my mentor. And from that day onwards, I see my boss. He's not even a boss, he's like a management. And I think we should talk about that as well. Like how in a working organization, you transform yourself from being a manager to a leader to a mentor. Because once you have that transformation, you start learning more, and it's a two-way growth. Both people learn from each other. So like I've learned from him how to manage, how to be more calm in more pressure situations. And he's even taught me snooker. Yeah, I mean, that is how mentorship just grows around everywhere.
Yeah, that's actually interesting because when I first started working at Trickle Up, one of our initial conversations that I had with Sir Tausif, and that was that, there's a difference between a manager and leader, because a manager is someone who tells you, you go over there, for instance, and a leader is someone like, come, let's go over there. So it's like, it's a different thing. It's similar to a mentor, because they're not just giving you, they're not delegating the task, they're not just giving you instructions, they're teaching you how to do it.
Exactly.
And that's kind of interesting, because when someone teaches you how to do something, you know how there's this idiom that's like, if you can either buy someone fish, or you can teach them how to catch a fish.
Exactly, you can teach them how
so
to
that
catch
kind of, when you get that kind of skill, you can actually reciprocate it, you can pay it forward, you can teach someone else about that.
Yep.
Again, the same thing comes back to the fact that this is the kind of knowledge that you don't get in books, you get it from people.
And this is something that employees are looking forward to. So I was reading those stats yesterday that around 83% of employees, they believe that if they're getting some sort of mentorship within their organization, then they will like to be retained. So like the retention rate definitely increases up if there's some sort of mentorship within your organization. So what do you think? What about Trickle Up? I mean, do you find yourself in a situation where they're encouraging mentorship?
I think there are a lot of great opportunities, because as someone, I was recently employed, and as I didn't really know much about digital marketing when I came here. And I interacted with so many people, I interacted with web developers, I interacted with content writers, and I learned a lot about this field in just a few months. I feel like I've learned so much compared to years and years of educations that I've had.
What's the closest thing you have as a mentor? What do you think?
I think maybe my parents, I think they've played a great role in shaping my personality.
Yeah, so do you remember that story when Sir Tausif was asking around that have all of us, if we have had a mentor or not? And I think a lot of us said the same thing, that my mother is my mentor. And what I think is that parenting is different from mentorship. It's like a very different relationship you have at home. It's not, they develop your character in a different sense, but mentorship is something else. It's more focused on your skills, your growth as a professional person, or within your career, or having a different insight. I don't think that you can have parents as your mentor. Mentorship has to be a different relationship where you regularly communicate with that person, where you have trust, and that person is more experienced, first of all. That person is more senior to you, you look up to him in different ways, but it is separate from parenting.
I think it's also because with parents it's kind of different, because we're their child, so sometimes they won't tell us like you're doing this wrong or something, like they'll accept you for who you are. But as a mentor, I think it's kind of different, because they help you like improve on those things
on different aspects.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I think that at Trickle Up, it's not just about how we learn from others. I think I'm at that place where I have taught others without even realizing it. So usually on Friday when we're having that communication sessions, we're encouraged to stand up at the whiteboard, and we're encouraged to tell people what book we read. So I'm basically telling all others that I have read this book, I was reading that Master Your Emotions, and I was explaining others how to master your emotions. So that was something that it's kind of a light bulb situation, that the more you talk, the more you communicate about your experiences, and if you're at the position where you're a mentor, you're automatically attracting all the other things from other people. So it's like a learning experience where you teach others, and in return you're learning a lot yourself as well. And I think Trickle Up really brings that environment together.
Yeah, and I think another thing that is very prevalent over here is that there's no like rank system. It's not like someone is above you or below you. We're all colleagues, we're all equal, and we're actually, this is something that is part of our business principles. Like, we encourage leadership mindset. We expect everyone to be in that position where you're able to inspire others, we're able to help others, because at the end of the day, we're all working towards just one goal, which is the well-being of Trickle Up.
Yeah.
So there's no discrimination in that kind of context.
I think what you're talking about is that we have that element of trust and open communication. So I think that brings us to our last question, that what does it take to find either to find a mentor, or what does it take to be a mentor? What are the main qualities or the main elements?
I think the most important thing is that as someone who is looking for advice, who's looking for help, I think as a mentee, you really need to take that first step. You need to go and ask them for help. You need to ask them for advice. Yeah.
And the other person should be encouraging enough that if a person is coming, that you're not in that authoritative space. You have that relationship with that person that he can openly talk about his problems.
Exactly, and they're available and they're approachable and it's easy to understand. But at the same time, I feel like when you're going to advice, when you're asking them, then you should also be open to feedback. Because if you take things personally, it's going to be very difficult for you to...
You're absolutely right. I think feedback, being open to feedback, that is a part where you have to navigate within yourself, that what are the things that I am blindsided from. And I think that is a great element in a mentor, that they're able to bring that out of a person without hurting their feelings. If they can teach them that this is your weak spot without hurting them, and this is how you overcome those things. And I think Sartosi has done a great deal of that as well, because when I first started, my blogs were not really getting a good feedback. So it was that style of sitting with me, reading the blogs, and then he's saying, yeah, this doesn't feel right. But the way he does it, it didn't feel bad. I didn't feel like he's hurting me or something. I just took it as an open feedback. I think that's a really good element to have within both mentor and mentee. As a mentor, you should be able to give constructive feedback without hurting others. And as a mentee, you should be open to take all that feedback within yourself.
Exactly. And I think one important thing about a mentor also is that they have that potential, that ability to, find some kind of skill in you that maybe you didn't realize.
Yeah.
So they can turn a coal into a diamond. They have that ability. So I feel like when I came at Trickle Up, I was basically just working in regards to just English language.
Yeah.
But he gave me that opportunity. He told me to dabble into other things. I got into content writing. I'm sitting here giving a podcast. Who knew? So I feel like that kind of aspect of a mentor is very important, because this is something that sometimes we don't see that potential in us. And that's why we underestimate ourselves.
Yeah.
So when we underestimate ourselves, sometimes we forget that we can also be a mentor as well to someone. So there's always something new to learn from someone.
And that is another element. So that is willingness to improve yourself. You should be able to have that mindset that wherever I am, even if you're in the football field or if you're at an office, you should have that willingness that I want to improve myself. And at this moment, what can I do to improve myself? When you have that kind of mindset, you'll automatically attract help from others. You'll see that this is what I needed to further promote myself. So what do you think? How do we conclude this whole conversation?
I think overall, I just want to say that we've gone through all those success stories as well. I've talked about Steve Jobs as well. We know about Apple.
Yeah.
We know about their products.
Packaging.
But what's the first thing you think? The packaging,
Yeah.
Exactly. The packaging is so sleek and minimalistic. And who was behind that? He actually had a mentor whose name was Mike Markula. And he actually told him that people do actually judge a book by its cover. So you should focus on the packaging. So Steve Jobs took that advice. He was open to feedback, and he actually put it into practice. He personally designed the whole packaging thing. And nowadays, we have proper videos of people posting unboxing videos of Apple packaging and everything. So that just shows you that since successful people have also had mentors, we can also have mentors, and we can create something exceptional and something this is our quote as well, that we don't just do average, we do awesome.
Yeah.
So I think that being a mentor, having that ability is really important, and I feel like at Trickle Up, we really have that opportunity. So that just brings me to ask people who are watching this podcast right now, that have you ever had a mentor, and what do you think? Do you have those capabilities of becoming a mentor yourself?
Yep.
So that's a question I'd like to throw out there.
And do follow us on the website.
Yeah, do check out our website.
And follow us on the social medias. Subscribe and comment to us. Yeah. See what do you see as mentorship.
Let us know what you think.
Thank you.
That's all. Bye.